Hello, grade sixes, and welcome to your mathematics lesson today, brought to you by WorksheetCloud.com. I hope you guys are well and have had a good week so far. If you're back at school and doing remote learning, then I hope that's going well for you. And I encourage you to stay on top of your work as much as possible and not treat this like an extended holiday, even though it might seem like it. Guys, just a reminder to use the email address on your screen, grade6@worksheetcloud.com. Feel free to ask me any questions on any previous lessons that we've taught, or this lesson, or perhaps there's something that you'd like to ask that we haven't covered. I encourage you to send those questions through, and I'll answer them during the next lesson. Okay, so today we'll warm up, and our main theme of today is of sums, so sticking with the fractions, and then we'll have the brain bender and challenge to finish off with. Okay, so our warm-up activity today is for you to find the value of each symbol and then also the question mark at the end. I encourage you guys to press pause now and to work through this by yourself and challenge yourself, and then see if you've worked it out correctly by pressing play and carrying on with the lesson. Right, press pause round about now. Okay, guys, so well done for working through that. Let's have a look at what our answer is. So to look at the top line, I'm going to say to myself 270 divided by 3. And an easier way for me to do that is to say 27 divided by 3 equals 9. And then I know that I need to add on the 0. So 270 divided by 3 is equal to 90. So 2 sons are equal to 90. So 90 times 3, as we know, is 270. So 1 son then must be 45. And what do I add to 45 to get to 400? Yes, quite correct. Sorry, to 445, and that's correct. You need to add 400. And I get that by multiplying 20 by itself. Okay, so 20 multiplied by 20 is 400. Then add that 45, and you get your 445. Net for your next line, you need to multiply by 20. So what multiplied by 20 gives me 320, and that's going to be 16. Then what number multiplied by itself gives me 16, and that's 4 multiplied by 4. And then the last line, so a single son is 45. A single acorn is 10. And the 2 flowers is 4. Okay, so here you have a choice in the order in which you multiply. You can try and make the sum easier for yourself. So you can go 45 times 10 is 450. Then 450 times 4 is 1,800. You could have also said 45 times 4 is 180. Then 180 times 10 is 1,800. Okay. Or you could have said 10 times 4 is 40, and 45 times 40 is 1,800. So my point there is, it doesn't matter what order you multiply in. Try and make the sum easier for you to work out, and then you'll get the same answer. Okay, right, let's move on. There are your mental maths questions for today. Just revising past principles and trying to keep you revising things that we've taught. So go ahead and press pause and see if you can work through these 5 questions, and then press play to see how you got on with them. Okay, guys, so question number 1 is just straightforward addition, and the trick there is to keep the numbers in the same column. And then the next important thing is to remember to carry when you need to. Okay, so I need to carry after 2 plus 9 because that equals 11. 3, 1 and 1 is 5, and then 2 plus 9 again is 11. So I'll carry that 1, and that gives me 21,515. Okay, your next question asks you for the inverse operations of 9 times 7. Okay, so 9 times 7 is 63. Inverse means the opposite. So we can say 63 divided by 7 equals 9. and 63 divided by 9 is equal to 7. So we've spoken about this before, about the importance of you knowing your multiplication tables, and it's also really important and beneficial for you to know the inverse operations of those. Just going to make your life a lot easier, and it's going to make you feel a lot more comfortable dealing with those calculations. Right, then the doubling and halving method. I was keen to see if you guys could remember this method from a couple of weeks back. So remember, if you've got an odd number, you can double it. And if you've got an even number, you can halve it. Okay, I can go further here and say 228 multiplied by 3. And now I can say 200 times 3 is 600. 20 times 3 is 60. 8 times 3 is 24. And I add them together and I get 684. Okay, so I haven't had to do any column method or any carrying over, or putting in a placeholder in a column method or anything like that. I've just done it mentally, and I think it's a little bit easier than having to write the column method down. But again, you guys can choose and decide whatever you feel most comfortable with. Okay, question 4 is a long division question, and I'm thinking that the majority of you would have been taught long division maybe like this, if you've been taught long division. So I'm going to try and avoid this whole situation, and I'm going to try and work this out using multiplication. Okay, so I know that 17 multiplied by 10 is equal to 170. Okay, and if I know that, then I know 17 times 20 is just double 170, so 340. I know that 340 is less than half of 867. Half of 800 is 400, so I've got a long way to go. So I can double that and see that that's 680. Still don't think I've really had to do much working out here. I've just multiplied by 10 and then doubled, which is a lot more straightforward than doing a long division algorithm. Okay. I then know that 17 times 10 is 170. So if I add 170 onto this, okay, I'm going to get 850. I know that there is 17 to go until 867. Okay, that's what I had there. All right, so now I've just got to count how many times I multiplied 17 by. I multiplied by 10, 20, 40, and then another 10. Okay, so all in all, I multiplied by 50. Okay, so 50 times 17 is going to give me 850. Then I need to add this additional 17, and my answer is going to be 51. Okay, so it might take you a couple of practices to get your head around this, and I'll try to do one each day for you. But I'd encourage you to give this a go, because then you don't really have to learn the long division algorithm of dividing, multiplying, subtracting, bringing down. Yeah, that's the way I was taught long division, and it didn't really work out too well for me. So this method for me makes a whole lot more sense. Okay, and then the last question you were asked to do was to subtract two fractions, and we've already worked through fractions. So I'm just checking that you guys remember we need a lowest common multiple and what that is. Okay, so my lowest common multiple of 8 and 5 is 40. All right, how many times does 8 go into 40 is 5 times, so 5 times 5 is 25. 5 goes into 48 times, and 8 times 3 is 24, and that's going to leave me with an answer of 1 over 40. Okay, cool. Right. Today's main topic is of sums. So I call them of sums purely because the word of appears in the question. Now with fractions, of means multiply. So if I have a quarter of 16, what we're actually saying is, what is a quarter of 16, or a quarter multiplied by 16? You might be asking, well, why did they use the word of? Well, if you go into a shop and you ask someone for half a kilogram of cheese, you're not going to go in and say, can I have half multiplied by a kilogram of cheese? So, that's where the word of comes in. And it is literally exactly the same as multiplication. So if you have a quarter of 20, it becomes a quarter multiplied by 20. You know that you can put 20 over 1. So then you have a quarter multiplied by 20 over 1. And then you multiply the numerators and you multiply the denominators, and you end up with 20 over 4, which is equal to 5. Okay? And that's how you do of sums. So I'm going to do an example for you on the Google Jamboard quickly, just to clarify that. And I'm going to use the example, which was a quarter of 20, and we said that of was multiply, and just so that we have two fractions to work with, I'm going to put 20 over 1. 20 over 1 is exactly the same as 20. Remember, a fraction means the numerator divided by the denominator. So 20 divided by 1 is 20. And then it's just a case of multiplying the numerators together. 1 times 20 is 20. And the denominators together, 4 times 1 is 4. And we know that 20 over 4 means 20 divided by 4. And that is equal to 5. Okay, so there's an activity here for you to do. And it's a little bit of a puzzle. And what you need to do is you need to work out and solve the clue by working out the of sums. Okay, so wherever you get an answer of 2, that's what that letter is equal to. So go ahead and work out this puzzle, and then when you come back, see if you've indeed worked it out correctly. Okay, good luck. Okay, guys, well done if you worked out that clue. So I'm just going to go through the of sums and just see what the answers are. So a quarter of 16 is 4. 1/7 of 63 is 9. 63 divided by 7 is 9. A quarter of 300 is 75. 300 divided by 4. A half of 4 is 2. Nice easy one. A half of 100 is 50. Half of 22 is 11. 11th of 55 is 5. A quarter of 100 is 25. 1/12 of 96 is 8. 100th of 1,000 is 10. And a third of 9 is 3. Okay, so my first square is looking for the answer of 2, so that's W. Second square looking for an answer of 11, that's O. 25 is R. 4 is L. And 9 is D. Yeah, 9 is D. The first word is world. Then 3 is M. 8 is A. 5 is T. 75 should be H. Yeah, and 10 should be S. Okay, so second word is maths. And then the last word, 9 is D. 8 is A. And 50 is Y. Okay, so if you worked out the clue and it's spelled World Maths Day, yeah, then you know your of sums, and you shouldn't have a problem with them moving forward. Okay, so sometimes in places where we use of sums is time. Okay, so we're going to look at a little bit of fractions of time. So using this concept in real life. So as the screen says, we use fractions of time regularly in our lives. And I'd like you to use the clock, which has been divided into 4 quadrants, to work out A to F, and then press play to see if you've worked it out correctly. Okay, off you go. Well done for working through that. So let's just have a look at what we're looking at. So what fraction of an hour is 15 minutes? So we should know that there are 60 minutes in an hour. So 15 minutes out of 60. Okay, but then I really need to simplify that. You know that 15 is the highest common factor of 15 and 60. So 15 goes into 15 once and into 60 4 times. And that is why 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. We can also have a look at the clock and we can mark off the 15 minutes, and I'll use a different color. There it is there. Okay, and that's just a little visual aid to show you a quarter of an hour. Okay, so next question, what fraction of an hour is 30 minutes? So we know that 60 minutes in an hour, so I can just have 30 over 60 as my original fraction. Okay, 30 is half of 60, and therefore it is half an hour. And there is your half an hour. Sorry, there is your half an hour there in green. Okay. Then what fraction of an hour is 45 minutes? And again, we can simply start off by putting 45 over 60. What's the highest common factor of 45 and 60? That should be 15. 15 goes into 45 3 times, and it goes into 60 4 times. And if I drew it visually for you, okay, there would be your 45 minutes, okay, and that's 1/4, a second quarter, because remember 2 quarters is the same as a half, and there is your third quarter of an hour. Okay, and then you asked in D, what fraction of an hour is 20 minutes? And we can put 20 over 60 as your original fraction. The highest common factor of 20 and 60 is 20. So 20 goes into 20 once and into 60 3 times. Okay, and if I went into a different color, there is your 20 there. Okay, so that would be 1/3. Okay, that amount there, okay, is going to be 1/3 of an hour. Okay, E asks us a little higher order question. If Lucas practices guitar from 20 past 4 until 25 to 5 each day, so that's 15 minutes. What fraction of an hour does this represent? So I know that there's 15 minutes from 4:20 to 4:35. So there it is there over my original 60 minutes. And we've already worked out that 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. So that would be 1/4. Okay. And F, your last question there, Patrick practices soccer for 1 hour and 15. Okay, so it's going to be more than 60 minutes. It's 1 hour and 15. So how many minutes is in 1 hour and 15 is 75. Okay. So how much is that of an hour? So we've actually got 75 minutes over 60. And they've asked us for an improper fraction, and there's your improper fraction. Okay. And how do we simplify that now? Because both 75 and 60 can be divided by 15. So 15 goes into 75 5 times and into 64 times. And if you were asked to put that into a mixed number, it's 1 and 1/4. Okay, so let me just talk you through 1 and 1/4. The 1 is the 1 whole hour that he practices for, and then the quarter is equal to the 15 minutes. Okay, so 1 hour and 15 minutes is 1 and 1/4 an hour. Okay, let's move on to finding fractions of amounts. So here, your fractions of amounts, your numerators are greater than 1. Okay, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to work through these 6 questions by yourself. When you finish, press play and see how you guys got on. Welcome, sorry, not welcome, well done for working those out. Okay, so just to go through these, remember we can write 2 over 4 of is multiplied and 12 can be written as 12 over 1. Okay, now multiply the numerators together to get 24 and the denominators together to get 4, and we know that 24 divided by 4 is 6. Okay, your second one, 5/6 of 30. Okay, and I'm just going to write it as 30 over 1. 5 times 30 is equal to 150, and 6 times 1 is equal to 6. Okay, what number goes into 150 and 6? That's going to be 3. Okay, so 3 goes into 150. Let me just make some space. 3 goes into 150 50 times, and 3 goes into 63 times. Twice, sorry. All right, 3 goes into 6 twice, and then I can go 50 divided by 2, and we know that 50 divided by 2 is 25. Okay, so you can do the 2-step simplification as well, and that's going to get you to exactly the same answer. Right, C's answer 3/4 of 24. Okay, so if you just let me clear some space. So 3/4 of 24. 3 multiplied by 24 is equal to 72. 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, and then 72 divided by 4 is equal to 18. So if I want to check there, I can say 18 multiplied by 4. Is that equal to 72? Yes, it is. And therefore I know that my answer here must be correct. Okay. He asks me 3/8 of 96. Okay. 3 multiplied by 96 is 288 over 8. Okay, so now I need to say 208 divided by 8. And if you want to make that a little bit easier, first halve the 288 to 144, halve 8 to 4, halve it again to 72 over 2, and 72 divided by 2 is equal to 36. Okay, so there again you can manipulate and play with the numbers to make the simplification process a little bit easier for yourself. Okay, E we on is 9/10 of 20. Okay, and that's going to be 180 over 10, and that equals 18. Okay, I get 180 by going 9 multiplied by 20, so multiplying the 2 numerators by each other. I get 10 by multiplying the denominators by each other, 10 times 1, and then 180 divided by 10 is 18. And your last one for today is 3/5 of 350. Okay, 350 multiplied by 3 is going to be 1050, and 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, I know that 5 goes into 1,200 times. Okay, so 1,000 divided by 200, and then 50 divided by 5 is 10. So I need to put them together and get 210. Right, and then I can always check, is 210 multiplied by 5 1,050? 200 times 5 is 1,000. 10 times 5 is 50. Put them together and you get your 1,050. Right, guys. So that's of sums. Okay, so just to recap there, of changes to multiply. If you have 2 fractions, then great, you just multiply the numerators together, multiply the denominators together, and then simplify. If you only have a fraction of a whole number, you still change of to multiply, and you can put the whole number over 1 so that you have 2 fractions, and then the same process applies. Okay. Then there is your brain bender for today. So again, find out the value of those icons, okay, and tell me what answers you get at the end. Okay, guys, well done for working that out. So I'm just going to fill in what I know. Okay, so they've given me 9. I know 9 multiplied by 3 is going to give me this 27. Okay, I know that 9 multiplied by 4 is going to give me this 36. And I know that 9 multiplied by 5 is going to give me this 45. I also know that the two pharaohs are equal to each other. So 5 and 5 go in there. And I can also put 5 where that pharaoh is. Now 5 times 3 is 15. So the diver is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, that's the middle number. And then I know that 1 multiplied by 5 is equal to this 5. So therefore 1 times 3 is 3 and Batman is 4. And that's how we work that puzzle out. So actually quite a straightforward one today. I did say I was going to challenge you a little bit more, so I'm going to have to dig through my puzzles and see if I can come up with a more tricky one moving forward. Okay, so all that's left for you today is your 24 challenge, and I like to give you these because it makes you play around with the numbers, play around with calculations, it gets you add, subtract, multiply, divide quite often. And remember, the challenge is not to only get to 24, but to see how many different ways you can get to the answer of 24. Okay, guys, so that's us for today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson and understood the concept of fractions of amounts. Please, if you have any questions, send them to grade6@worksheetcloud.com, and yeah, I'll get back to you during the next lesson. Have a great day further, and all the best. Cheers, guys.